You will cry by the end of this story. A boy and a girl were driving home from the movies, but the boy sensed that something was wrong because of the entire day of weird silence. The girl asked him to pull over the car because she needed to talk to him. She explained to him that her feelings had changed and she needs to move on, and unfortunately, she wants to break up with him. A single tear dripped down his cheek as he reached into his pocket, handing her a small folded note. At that moment, a driver came speeding down the road, hitting their car. Unfortunately, the boy was instantly killed, but the girl did survive. After coming out of the hospital, she remembered that he handed her a note as he died. She reached into her pocket, she pulled out the note, opened it, and the note read, "Without your love, I would die."
Actors who died young, part 1.
Thompson Young.
He did TV appearances, commercials,
And was even the star of a show called The Famous Jet Jackson on Disney. He even filmed with the young Beyonce on this show. In his later teen years, he was diagnosed with depression and bipolar disorder. But he still managed to be kind and happy towards everyone.
He never let his acting get in between his schoolwork, and in 2001, he graduated in New York of the High School of Performing Arts. He even earned a bachelor's with honors in USC.
And after, he still continued to act and voice act. In 2010, he was cast as Barry Frost on a show called Rizzoli and Isles that appeared on TNT. But in 2013, he didn't show up to set one day and the crew got worried, so they called the cops to check it out, soon discovering that Lee had taken his own life with a handgun. Everyone was shocked because he was so happy and always fun to be around.
His sister said he would always call her when he was sad, but she thought it was little bumps in the road and nothing so serious. He never showed signs of wanting to end it.
His family then started the Lee Thompson Foundation, which educates people on mental health.
Remember, if you're sad, never be afraid to talk to someone.
This is the youngest person to ever get executed in history at only 14 years old. And his story and how he was wrongfully convicted is so sad it will make you cry. This is George Steiner Jr., and on June 16, 1944, he became the youngest person to ever be executed in the United States. Two young white girls were found murdered, and George and his sister were said to be the last people to have seen them alive. So authorities quickly showed up to George's house when his parents weren't home and arrested him. When he arrived to the police station, he was questioned in a small room alone without his parents and without an attorney. Police claimed the boy confessed to killing the two girls. Then an all-white jury took less than 10 minutes to come to their decision to put him to death, even though there was no evidence and no witnesses. And recently, 70 years after he was executed, a new investigation proved he was completely innocent. He was forced to confess to a crime he did not commit. Rest in peace, George Steiner Jr.
One day, a girlfriend asked her boyfriend if he could live one day without her. One day without contacting her, texting her, or calling her. He accepted the challenge. The next morning, he headed to her house so excited to tell her that he had won the challenge. Her parents answered the door and told him that unfortunately she was dying of a horrible disease, only had one day to live, and she passed away this morning. But before she passed away, she had a special note just for him. The note read, "You passed the challenge. You lived one day without me. Now you have to live every single day without me."
Saddest stories you haven't heard. Courtney Walden. Courtney was a very beautiful girl with kids and a husband. Her and her husband was at a bonfire when the fire went out. Her husband went to go put gas on the fire, and next thing you know, the fire shot up and she was caught on fire. She had suffered from burns on 40% of her body. While recovering in the hospital, her husband said he couldn't take anymore and left her with a daughter, no money, and a $1.5 million medical bill. This is Courtney today, happy and smiling. She got enough money raised to make a house and pay some of her bills. Fellas, if you're gonna love somebody, love them through anything, especially if they have your kid. The crazy part is it was his fault in the first place.
Stop scrolling for just 1 second. Let me tell you a story. Tomorrow will be exactly 1 year since I lost my best friend, my grandpa. He was an inspiration to me. He always told me that hard work pays off. My grandpa was truly the only person that knew how passionate I was about streaming. He was the only person that I opened up to about this because I knew he wouldn't judge me for it. My grandpa had been at every single hockey game, every single baseball game. He always was there for me when I needed him. About a month before my grandpa passed away, I promised him that I would make it full-time in gaming. And he told me, "You go for it and do it for me." And that's exactly what I'm doing. And shortly 2 months later, I blew up on TikTok, and that's how it all started. For every new person that is seeing this, I hope that you guys are here to support my dream and to make my grandpa proud. Without my grandpa, I probably wouldn't be half the person I am today.